Hi, my name is Naomi Ruele. I am an Olympic qualifying swimmer. Representation matters to me as a Black female swimmer, just so I can create the space for other Black girls to not have to, doubt themselves within the space.
All right, I'm super excited for this series that we're doing. And we have our first guest. Representation matters is what this feature is focused on. And we have Naomi Ruele, who wants to clear up some racist waters for black swimmers, is the way I'm going to phrase it, because that has been kind of your life. From the beginning. Before I even introduce you and talk about your amazing stuff, who is Naomi? And just tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi. So, my name is Naomi Ruele. I was born and raised in Botswana. I started swimming primarily because my mom used to work at this hotel and she'd work very late nights. And so I wanted to spend time with her. So I would just hang around the pool, and eventually that kind of blossomed into a competitive career. And then I moved to the United States to pursue, university and swimming. And I've been here since.
Let's talk about the huge stigma about black people can't swim. And the reason I really want to talk about this is because I was a swimmer, I was a water polo player. I started in Botswana as well. We went to the same primary school, which is really
Right.
awesome. When I arrived in South Africa, everyone was like, "Oh my God, you're black and you swim." And I kept saying, "Yeah, but everyone in Botswana swims. Like it's so hot there.
Yeah,
Like, it's
honestly.
so yeah, it's yeah." So tell us about your experience being in Bots and just what's been your experience since?
In general, the stigma of Black people not being able to swim, it's very ingrained in our society, so much so that I've actually seen people, who are Black kind of be as surprised that I swim. Again, it feeds off of many different, societal issues and socioeconomic issues. It's like no spaces for Black people to swim in certain areas, or just like that connotation that's related to that. But in general, my personal experiences have always been just one of shock. Now that I think about it, every time I just think about it, when you're young and you're starting off swimming, like you don't really comprehend the impact just like existing as a Black person in a primarily white space is. And so now I've been reflecting, as I get older about what that means. And it's just kind of my personal experiences have been, I'm always, a lot of the time, I'm like one of the few people who are of color. There's like one lane of Black people in a lane, and then like other people who are swimming. And I've had people
Mm.
tell me, oh, like that's where you belong, but it's obviously not my club. I'm old enough to acknowledge that that stems from a lot of people's own insecurities and has nothing to do, and it's not a reflection of who I am. But it's definitely something that, as a child can shape you into, not having a sense of belonging. And I don't think that swimming doesn't like I don't think swimming belongs to any one demographic. It's for everyone. Or I didn't go into swimming expecting to make an impact, you know what I mean? I just wanted to swim, just like because I thought it was enjoyable. But I guess I didn't really realize what that meant to have a Black swimmer in the space.
We don't, oh, and I will actually say, you don't have anyone to kind of say, "Hey, look at that swimmer that looks like me." And I think that is just one of the hardest parts. And also, everyone underestimates you when you get
Right.
onto that number five lane, and number five lane being the fastest lane. For those listening, you get there and you're already underestimated. So that already, you already start underestimating yourself because all those insecurities just start
Exactly.
coming into place.
Exactly.
Funny enough, you're talking about your mom worked at a hotel, and that's how you got swimming. My dad played golf a lot, and we were always at
Mine
the golf
too.
club. Oh, how about that?
Right.
Yeah, they played golf a lot, so we were always at the golf club, and there was a swimming pool at the golf club, and a lot of black families didn't have swimming pools.
Mm-hmm.
During when I was back at school, when I was in primary school. So we were even fortunate enough to be able to do that. I think that's also the thing of swimming belongs to a certain race. That's where the idea came from. It's just that we didn't have the facilities. I was the first person within my family who knew how to swim.
Right.
and actually not drown. Um, and that's why it's also looked upon like, whoa, actually.
Yep. I know. It's weird though, because it's like for my family, I think, I'm very lucky to have grown up with a very open-minded family. And so I think my mom definitely knows how to swim. My brother knows how to swim. But I think there have been times where, I'm the only one comfortable with the act of doing it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times where people, everyone knows it for water safety, but it's like who, you actually want to do it kind of thing. And, it's also funny because I'll spend time with, like, again, some of my Black friends, and you know, I am someone who tries to enjoy swimming leisurely whenever I can. So it's always like, when you're young and you go to pools and everyone's like, let's race. I'm like, please, I just trained for like 3 hours. Like, I don't want to race anymore kind of thing. So it's just like, and it's just one of those things where I'll sit. I'm like, I just literally want to sit on the side of the pool. I want to just float. I don't want to do anything. But yeah, it's about that comfort level.
Let's talk about those insecurities, and you tapped on, and I think I just want to touch on friendship groups. That has a huge
Mm-hmm.
impact because a lot of Black girls don't swim. So now
Mm-hmm.
you're spending a lot of time, most probably with white girls because they all swim and they're all competitive. And it kind of shines a light on you a little bit like, oh, I'm not hanging out with people that look like me. Maybe I should stop doing the sport. And a little bit of pressure is attitudes, particularly growing up. Can you chat to us a little bit about that?
One thing I've always had about me, which I'm honestly very proud of, is I try to be very multifaceted. Like I try to have multiple hobbies. I try to basically have space for myself in different capacities. And when I did, and I can only speak to kind of my university experience, just because that's where I really primarily took action on, you know, being surrounded by people that look like me. So yes, my team, it's a very international team. We had people from all over the world, mostly Europe and mostly the United States. So I was always, one of two Black women on the team for the past 4 years. And I was very adamant about acknowledging that swimming doesn't usually hold space for Black women or Black people. And to combat that, instead of, just like regressing that swimming was my whole life, I, joined organizations. I took classes about, African history. I took women's gender studies so that I could build relationships with other people who understand. Because, you have allies and you have people who, do the right thing, per se. There's always that lacking, I don't know, that lack of understanding. They'll never understand your experiences while they understand that they're wrong. And so I spend a lot of my time in general, even now, just putting myself in spaces where I have people who look like me, putting myself in spaces where I have people who have the same beliefs as me. I can definitely take the initiative to go and find those people that are like my tribe, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
that that make it easy for me to again go to a different space, which in this case swimming, and still feel as though I belong.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I mean, that's the beauty about being one of the firsts. You really get to show others that, hey, you're not alone. And, or you speak up and others start to join and go, hey, I see you. And I think that's one of the reasons I reached out to you was because I was like, hey, that was me 6 years ago, seven, maybe eight.
Yeah.
But like I go, that was me, and that was me, and I totally get what she stands for, and it's so important. And I'll give you an example of myself standing, singing the national anthem with my teammates as a water polo player, ready to play against Russia. And I remember just looking at my body shape compared to all the other girls, and I kept thinking maybe that's the reason why I'm not that great of a swimmer because my athletic build is not the same as everybody else. I should be having really long legs and I should be having
Should
more
be
broader
slender, you should be
shoulders.
slim. The female body is so complex. It's going to change, it's going to adapt. And while, I don't know the biology of it specifically, I do acknowledge that a lot of the time when people are bringing a biological standpoint on how someone should be as a swimmer, it's always to negate people who are successful who don't look like that. And that's the issue that I have. You know, you reached a national level water polo stance because you are talented, you know, regardless of what your body looks like.
And I mean, we see great examples of that. We see Michael Phelps, how they speak of him like some alien in the water. We see with Serena Williams as well, who defies the odds once again in the perfect tennis player body. Speaking of these idols, who is an idol for you? I mean, there are not many female black swimmers out there that we can look at and say, I want to be like you one day. So who's kept you going?
I don't like to use the word idol, mostly because I don't like to, and it sounds pretty self-centered, and I'm not trying to sound like that, and I'll explain why. But I find myself to be like my future self, or who I desire to be, or who one day I see myself as to be my idol. I do, of course, have role models. I have people I look up to, people I respect. Kirsty Coventry, she's a swimmer for Zimbabwe, sorry. And, you know, she is a white woman, but I think there is that intersectionality of being African. And again, that stigma of being an African swimmer, regardless of, you know, what you look like, is still portrayed in a certain way. And I think she has done all that she can to defy those odds. And I have just like this immense respect for her. I do look up to Simone Manuel because, you know, she's this amazing, completely talented woman. And I just respect her being able to also, recently I've seen her, you know, speak out on these issues. And I just respect someone using their platform to do the work.
Wow, absolutely. And I mean, those are the role models that have only come in the last maybe 10 years. That is, it's nice to see the industry, and I say the swim industry, particularly for females and particularly for black females, growing. Obviously, this is really personal to yourself, but what would you say, what does representation mean to you?
I think it depends on, and this is another thing where I really desire for people to kind of look at their place in any kind of societal issue. You know, I think representation means, what can I do to contribute positively to this issue, this ongoing issue? And the first thing I think a lot of people, I actually gave a panel at work about, you know, what your Black employees are going through, because, you know, it's not easy to wake up every day, open the news, see another Black woman has been murdered. It's not easy to see, you know, another Black woman has been raped, you know, gender-based violence. There's so much that goes into the mental health of Black people, having to wake up and then go about their day as if nothing happened. So what representation means for me as a Black woman is, and I'm reading Audre Lorde right now, actually, fantastic poet. And she has this quote that I really resonate with, which for me as a Black woman, that self-care is already a liberation, and it's already like a radical act. And for me, what I'm doing to represent like myself as a Black woman and Black women all over is taking that initiative to just quite literally take care of myself. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that I'm actively remembering that I'm not subhuman, that I'm a beautiful woman, and it doesn't have anything to do with my skin color. As maybe a white person, your role to represent or to, you know, have your place and take action could be spreading the word, could be donating. So essentially my point is just like, everyone needs to understand for themselves what their place is in this world and how they can contribute positively to creating long-lasting change.
Awesome. Really, really powerful. And I love that. Health within yourself. So important.
Always.
We haven't even spoken about the amazing stuff you've done as a swimmer. I mean, you've also qualified for the Olympics. Firstly, have you tattooed the Olympic rings around you yet?
I do have them right here on my wrist. I have them. You know, it's so funny because I wanted them to be bigger, but I have an African mother, and, you know, she didn't want a tattoo on me. So I was like, we can compromise. Like, I could just get it like a little one on my wrist. And she was like, fine, I do have them. It's my mark of success. I have to.
Absolutely. Oh, tell us a little bit. I want to know about your success. And I think that's the first thing we were talking about, the healing of self and affirmations, basically. Let's talk about your amazing work and amazing stuff that you've done so far. So, yes, Olympics. What else? Name them.
Oh God. Like I qualified for the NCAA's all 4 years of my university career. That's like United States Nationals. I qualified for United States long course nationals. I've competed in, lots of world championships. And I qualified for the Youth Olympics actually in 2014 in China with my first A cut like of my life. I don't even know how old I was. So I think like looking back, I could not have asked for a better, I don't know, career. I'm very, very happy with how it's turned out so far. So
Are we continuing to swim? I know the pandemic has kind of put everything on pause, and everyone's kind of rethinking their lives right now. What's happening with you?
I mean, I can definitely say that I too am rethinking my life, but I guess it's more so rethinking my priorities because I do think I am someone, again, who's multifaceted and I have so many interests, but I've been really thinking about, let me preface this with yes, I'm going to continue, sorry, but I've been really thinking about, your priorities can change, and the more you grow, the more you realize you might be needed somewhere else more than where you are currently. And so I'm just thinking about what more I can do, as a Black swimmer to continue to create those spaces. And that could be joining organizations that are very focused on this, again, creating some sort of platform. So I'm just brainstorming different ways that I can make an even bigger impact than just my place in the pool.
What advice would you give to any Black swimmer, male or female, in Africa right now, and they feel quite alone and just need a bit of inspiration? What would you say to them?
Don't allow your only solace to be swimming. And it sounds contradictory because I am a swimmer, but it's very easy to burn out in an area where you don't belong, and that's your primary source of success. Like, don't measure your success based off of how well you do only in the pool. That's definitely a way to measure your success, but I think a lot of the conversation even now around being Black has to be about being excellent. And it's like, why can't we just do things because we enjoy them? Why do I only belong in a space when I'm so very good at it, but I can't just enjoy it? So I think it's about really realizing that the bar is so high for you that if you set your own, then no one can tell you otherwise.
Love that. Absolutely love it. And I totally understand and totally get that. Naomi, wow, wow, wow. You're only 23. You are an amazing swimmer, and you've
Thank you.
more than just a swimmer. You've got so much bars to drop, should I say.
I have things to say. For
You got
sure.
lots of things to say, and this has been inspiring for me. I hope this has inspired many others. And thank you just for sharing your thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean,
Representation.
thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. From one swimmer to another swimmer. Like, representation matters, and
It
the more we
does.
speak out like this is the better it is for future generations to come. Naomi,
Absolutely.
you're a flippin' star. Take care of
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you.
5FM. Watch 5FM TV on YouTube. 5FM.